Russia is to hold Arctic drills with non-Arctic nations. It says that Russia will kick off multilateral drills across its Arctic territory this week, drawing in participants from 9 non-Arctic nations to test Russian-made equipment after regional cooperation halted with the West. Essentially, they stopped dealing with the U.S. and, of course, NATO alliance countries. On April 6th and 7th, the Russian Ministry of Emergency Situations will host the Safe Arctic 2023 exercises across 9 regions of the country's Arctic zone. It said in a statement, participants include representatives from 9 unnamed African, Latin American, and Eurasian countries. It said that the exercises will demonstrate rescue methods as well as vehicles, aircraft, and other types of equipment produced by Russia's manufacturers. In the run-up to the drills, Moscow has also been carrying out a 12-day Arctic research expedition to conduct additional tests of Russian gear designed to ensure regional safety. Something's got to be up with this. Again, this is a huge, massive movement of military up in the Arctic. And we've always, questioned what is actually going on in the Arctic. Why is it so important? Well, strategically, it's very important. But what else is happening there? They are also opening up trade lines between China and Russia. There's all sorts of very, very funky things going on up there. Is this more than what it looks like? We'll talk about that and much more today. We'll talk about what is going on with UKR. We'll talk about what is happening with Japan. They are possibly going to be building a whole lot of bomb shelters. So something is up. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It's Adam A.K. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we're going to talk about a variety of subjects, including all of your current events. Make sure, if you're new here, go over to marfooglenews.com, and you will find a full bibliography of all of our sources. Every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to cover here today will be available over on our website. Go to marfooglenews.com or the show notes in the first link right down below me on YouTube, DLive, and Rumble, and you'll find they know something that we don't: Japan building shelters. It's all done by thumbnails, so really easy to find. Once you click on that, you will find every single article, tweet, video, picture, document, not to mention a whole lot more. There is an entire section of stuff that we could not fit into the show, or the stuff that would get you in a bar fight if you talked about. So make sure to go check that out as well, and we'll briefly talk about that at the very end. Also, make sure when you're over at marfooglenews.com, make sure to check out marfooglenews.com/friends. This is all of our mods, the great people that are down in the chat, keeping it peaceful, and of course, they're community leaders. And again, make sure to go follow them and check out their channels. So let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So, first of all, the non-Arctic nations, including African nations, South Africa just joined, with the whole Russia drills thing. You have all of these other nations joining in this drill. This seems like a World War III practice. Why would these other nations need to be there for something like this unless it was an actual strategy for a future conflict? That's what I don't get.
I would agree. And the timing is very interesting too, because tomorrow is the 5th. That's when Kevin is supposed to be meeting with the president of Taiwan. Then that will cause a conflict again with Xi starting potentially on the 5th or 6th. These exercises are starting on the 6th. And the unnamed countries, I think you can sort of guess who they are. In Latin America, I would assume it'd be Venezuela, since they've got a lot of ties. And then, of course, in Africa, South Africa being a member of BRICS, and in the Eurasian, that might even cover, China and others. So we'll see who, if they even announce who else participates. But yeah, it's very very suspect in my opinion.
Suspect for sure. And then what could they do from there? If you are military or ex-military, or I guess if you are formal military, make sure to try to comment down below. Let us know what you think about the Arctic and what they do up there, what they are doing, what their long-term goals, what you think that they are doing up there. Everyone has a theory about what is happening up there, from, of course, bases to old NAZI bases to, of course, aliens, a hole to Hollow Earth. Let me know what you think. I would love to hear your theory on it. And then, of course, calls for a space highway code to prevent accidents and reduce space junk. It's a crazy time that we are living in right now, where they're basically working out highways in the sky, only way higher in space. It says aerospace companies and experts are calling on governments around the world to adopt a highway code to help tackle the increasing problem of space junk. It is estimated that there are more than 36,000 objects in space larger than 10 centimeters and 130 million between 1 millimeter and 1 centimeter. All are moving at speeds of more than 10,000 kilometers an hour, which pose a risk to the safety of both crew and space and other satellites. The Space Safety Coalition, or the SSC, has unveiled a landmark publication detailing what it regards best practice for all space operators as the number of launches and spacecraft increases exponentially. Whereas they used to do, one a year, now they're doing it like once a day. It says these include prioritizing sustainable practices during satellite launches, such as reusable launch vehicles, developing propulsion systems that prevent gases being released into the atmosphere, and a highway code style guidebook for maneuvering spacecraft to avoid collisions. This is like straight something out of Star Trek or Star Wars, right? Some sort of sky highway, or the Fifth Element, where you've got all these flying taxis through the sky. As far as this goes, Dex, they've set it up down on the lower levels for drones, and we saw that. And as a hobby drone operator, you saw that they let us know years ago. They said that they're setting up for drones to be commercial and to have businesses delivering things. And the FAA was essentially telling us that there's going to be whole chunks that are closed off because they're going to be running business. They're going to possibly running taxis through the sky very soon here. It seems unbelievable because forever we've said that there was going to be flying cars and drone delivery and all of this, but now it is here. And there's actually companies like Zipline which are moving forward with this at a breakneck speed. On top of that, we have Chicago actually doing a flying drone taxi from Chicago downtown, I believe, to the airport. So things like this are picking up speed. Above this is the space highway. Imagine if in the near future, we have all sorts of things flying above us. It'll be hard to tell what's UFO or what's BOB or Steve. Dex, what do you think about this? Like, obviously, there's a lot of stuff up there.
It certainly seems like they're bringing this whole notion of space junk as bringing it front and center. We've heard more and more about this in the last year. I would say a lot more in the last couple of months, especially with a lot of the reentries, the ones that were over California that they then labeled as space junk. Of course, we've got the crazy stuff coming from Xi when they just launch rockets that they don't know how to bring down safely, and they just let them go wherever they go when they're done with them. So, but it also brings about a question of who actually controls the space up there, and who decides what can go where. And it sounds like they're maybe trying to get a consortium together to do that, or this is a group trying to go around whatever organization currently controls it, which I have a sneaking suspicion would be probably the ones who have the most equipment up there, being the U.S., probably Russia and China. So, we'll see where this goes. I don't know the actual motives other than what they're telling us, but it certainly makes you question this whole notion of space junk for sure.
And there's a chunk of you that believe that we are going through an asteroid belt or an asteroid field, and that there is a lot of objects hitting Earth, and that there's going to be even more in the future. I'm with you, by the way. I believe that they have seen something that is going to hit us, and they know in the future. The reason why we don't know that is because obviously they wouldn't tell us. In every sci-fi movie, which again, sci-fi movies end up becoming truth. I mean, look at Contagion. You have a lot of movies and sci-fi that essentially tries to look at the most realistic scenario in something that could happen in the future. Don't Look Up was a good example. Of course, they said that was, in fact, an analogy for the climate and all of that. But really, it was like something like that could happen. And as far as the asteroids and things, it has gone up year after year for the last 5 years. It quadrupled in sightings of things coming in. So there is something going on, and I guarantee they would not tell us if something was going to hit. At the same time, every country in the world is either trying to get to Mars, get to the moon, or come up with some sort of system to knock out meteors out of the sky or space junk. Again, they talk about space junk and this whole code thing, but also, I just want to point out they've done Hammer, they've done DART, they've done OSIRIS-REx, OSIRIS-APEX, they've done all of these different missions, Hayabusa 2. They're doing these missions to go to asteroids. And what the public, thinks is, oh, it's all for money. It's for this. I think that's the one thing that's not for money. I think that they're worried about a future thing that they would never tell us about. I wonder what is actually happening up there, but who knows? Let me know what you think. Again, I know that not everybody's going to think along the same page as I do. And then Elon Musk could lose his fortune in $206 billion court case over the pyramid scheme. So, Dex, I'm going to have you explain this one. In fact, I'm going to dip out for 1 second. But again, I believe you understand this a lot better than I do of what happened with this case.
So this is exactly what we were talking about last night. It's kind of funny. It's not the first time we've talked about it either, but this whole notion that Elon has, talked about Doge and, effectively driven the price up. And it's not just what he did yesterday. It's what he did for quite a bit of time. And over the last couple of years, when he allegedly drove the price up significantly, they are actually trying to sue him for billions of dollars based on the fact that he did drive the price up and then let it flounder by not doing anything after that. Not that it was necessarily his point to do it, but they're saying that that's either some sort of pyramid scheme or some sort of criminal or civil action that can be taken against him. So I don't know if this lawsuit will really go anywhere, but they're actually suing him for $258 billion. That's a lot of money. And it's basically a bunch of angry crypto investors, and they're accusing him of manipulating the price of Dogecoin. So we'll have to see where this goes. But certainly interesting, especially right after this is coming out, right after, he changed the logo on the Twitter website to the Doge dog. And of course, all of the commentary that he had over the years about Doge. So.
Yeah, all of his weird tweets. He's tweeted so many different weird things as far as the metamorphosis AI with the butterfly, and then he did a second version with the Doge dog. Changing the logo to the Doge. We talked about that last night, how he can manipulate things with the tweet. It's crazy. All right, and then, thank you, Dex. And then Japan weighs bomb shelter bill with eye on China. It says, with tensions around Taiwan rising and North Korea firing missiles at blistering pace, lawmakers in neighboring Japan are pushing for a rollout of shelters for its residents that can take refuge in the event of an attack. A bill laying out a schedule for shelter provision could be passed as soon as the next fiscal year. Keiji Fiorura, a ruling Liberal Democratic Party lawmaker and former Minister of National Resilience, said in an interview last week. It says Japan has not been involved in a war in 77 years, but what we've taken for granted since then is no longer holding true. It said that the world has changed a lot, he said in an interview with Bloomberg News. Japan finds itself in an increasingly dangerous neighborhood, with China having fired ballistic missiles into waters close to southwestern islands last year, and North Korea is also rapidly building its missile prowess with launches, including one that flew over Japan in October, and many before that. There's been a ton that have gone over Japan. They're constantly having to actually do their alarms. It says, well, there are vast networks of subways in major Japanese cities that could be used for civil defense. The majority of homes in the country do not have basements. This could leave people who live away from the major metro centers at a life-threatening quandary in the event of a missile attack from China or North Korea that could come in a matter of 15 minutes or less from launch. Japan has thousands of designated evacuation centers for use in natural disasters, but most of them are not underground. So when people look at this, they just say, oh, okay, well, they're adding something for a possibility in the future. These are contingencies. If you look at what Japan has done in the last year, they have now switched their constitution, so they are going to be an offensive country. They from their formal, official, and back-channeled sources that you get from Japan, they are saying that they are worried about China. They're worried about China taking Taiwan, and then maybe they know something we don't. Maybe they know about a deal that some other country has done with China to take Taiwan. Whatever it is, Japan has always been kind of its own country in a lot of ways. There's been a lot of stuff that I've even found out over the last year that they prefer cash only. They still use fax machines. They're old school. They would prefer using cash over anything else. They just got the equivalent of social security numbers or the something like it. They've always been really, really old school, and it goes into their culture, it goes into everything else. They've also been at this country that has said, hey, we're not going to fight anybody. We're going to be completely peaceful. After Japan, they said, we're not going to go to war with anybody. We're going to be a self-defense force. Essentially, if somebody attacks us, we'll attack them back, or we'll defend ourselves. Now they have changed it. Now they have put all of this money. They have switched up their budget now, so they are in the top 10, and I believe they're actually in the top 5 military budgets in the world, which is absolutely insane for them to go from a peaceful, kind of a Sweden and Finland type country to the complete opposite, to on the attack mode, and we will join a World War III if we have to. And this is what the entire world is shifting towards. Every country in the world is picking a side right now. And people are still in the dark about this because the media is just blasting out information of all types. It doesn't matter if it's disinfo or real info. They put out so much that people are blasted with it. They do not know what World War III looks like. This is World War III, and we're already in it. It's already started. It's already begun. And I don't think, you guys know, and some of you may not. You may say, hey, I disagree. That's totally fine. But many of us here do believe we are already in this, and eventually something worse is going to happen. That's why we tell people to prepare, to have a basic plan with family, because eventually it will pay off. It will pay off having that, just as it is to have rental insurance or car insurance or anything else. People should have food and water. It's like, you don't get car insurance because you know you're going to get in an accident. You get it because you may, right? This is the odds of something bad happening here in the U.S., I believe, are higher than many places in the world besides Europe. In Europe, you guys are probably the highest risk right now, as far as being all around the borders of Russia, because whatever game they're playing, whatever orchestration you think is going on, it may be high-fiving in the background, behind 10 people at a table, maniacally laughing, petting their cats. But we're still going to be the victims of this thing, and they don't care. They don't care about us. They don't care if we live. They don't care if we perish. In fact, Some of them have publicly said they would much like that 15% of us at least would be taken out by something, natural or unnatural. So I'm thinking that they have some sort of knowledge that we do not have. Dex, as far as Japan, watch Japan is what I have said for a year now, and we got really good information about that they are going to lead something not only physically, but they're going to be the country that has a huge part, and they were a huge part of World War II. In this next conflict, they are, I believe, are going to be a huge part as well. And many people won't get it until the last second because all the pieces are going to come together right before this goes down. That's my thoughts. Dex, what are yours?
Well, I think they do have a little bit of an advantage in the fact that they, in the major cities, have a lot of subways, so they can potentially use some of those locations, but they're obviously not built for that. They're built for transporting people on trains. So to what extent that may help them in the short term, but obviously they are looking at this as a serious problem. And as you said, watch Japan. We've always said that. We've seen the rise in tensions between both Vlad and Xi towards Japan, let alone NK, which literally puts missiles over their country. But I think even Xi has landed some near some of their islands on tests as well. So all of those things certainly will raise the alarm bells, so to speak, for their citizens and for their country. And since they've taken a much different approach over the last 2 years towards their defense or offense now, it makes sense that they're looking at this.
Indeed, it does. And the whole thing is to get to this point, to get them to where they would switch up their constitution. There were parties that were in favor and there were parties that were against. The party that was in favor was Shinzo Abe's party, and he was the former prime minister. And it's so coincidental that it just so happens that he was at a public speech. Somebody made a homemade shoddy, boom, boom, and it homemade took him out from behind at a speech. And within weeks, the thing was totally changed. His party got all of the votes. It was like his death was what switched people over. And then the guy who actually took him out, they said this story about how Shinzo Abe represented or was with a church that basically screwed this guy's mom over. It didn't make sense. So watch Japan, and I believe we're confident that it's going to be something that once you see it, you're going to go, oh man, that's why. You're already seeing it. Look at what is happening right now. Japan is one piece of the puzzle, but it's going to be one that's going to stick out like a sore thumb very soon, in my belief. Philippines names 4 new camps for U.S. forces amid China fury. But one thing to point out is everyone is confused if this is everything. Everybody is in a different camp. They've heard people that have convinced them one way or another, and many people have gone so many different directions in this. Nobody really knows. They are confident in what they've heard and what makes sense to them, and then they stick with that and they go, no, that's my truth. But the thing is there is so much propaganda out there. There is a 1 million-man army in China pushing stories out that are meant to make you think that they are the alternative story when they are actually not. They are actually something to throw you off from the real story. And then you have our gov and every other Western gov putting out all of this crap too, because they have agendas as well. All of these governments do. There's not one government in the world that doesn't have some sort of secretive agenda going on. That's not a theory. That's just the truth. Every government in the world and every government leader in the world has innocent people taken off this planet Earth. Realize that. Think about that. All of our leaders, every single leader, makes the decision to take out somebody, not because they did something wrong, not because they're evil, not because they committed a crime. Maybe they were just in the wrong place in the wrong time and they saw something or they knew too much. Knowing too much on this planet Earth will get you taken out. That's what's so crazy. And that's why it's kind of scary doing things that we do. And when we do get something really crazy, you have to be careful on what you actually say. Otherwise, you might end up off an overpass or something. And then, let's see here. Yeah, Philippines names 4 new camps for U.S. forces amid China fury. The Philippine government on Monday identified 4 new local military camps, including some across a sea border from Taiwan, where rotational batches of American forces with the weapons would be allowed to stay indefinitely despite strong objections from China. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s administration announced in February his approval of an expanded U.S. military presence in the country by allowing American forces to station in the 4 additional Philippine military bases under the 2014 Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement between the longtime treaty allies. The move would boost his country's coastal defense, Marcos said, and it dovetails with the B administration's effort to strengthen an arc of military alliances in the Indo-Pacific to better counter China, including any future confrontation over Taiwan. You know, something came out of nowhere in my head was, Dex, I know that you've used this example a lot, and you love this movie too. You remember Snowpiercer?
Yeah.
And it's a 10-year-old movie at this point, maybe more. So I don't think it's going to ruin too much to spoil it. But at the very end, you basically find out that it's all about just having less people on the train, right? You just kind of wonder if that was kind of an allegory to something bigger, like what they do on Earth every few years, right? With this whole thing that yes, President B and President Xi, maybe they're high-fiving and they're saying, yeah, let's go to conflict real quick and get rid of a bunch of people. Just kidding. The new sites identified by Marcos' office include a Philippine Navy base in Santa Ana Town and international airport in Lalo Town, both in northern Cagayan Province. Those 2 locations have infuriated Chinese officials because they would provide U.S. forces with a staging ground close to southern China and Taiwan, the self-ruled island Beijing claims it owns. It says the 2 other military areas are in northern Isabela province and are on local Navy camp Balabac Island in the western province of Palawan. Palawan faces the South China Sea, a key passage for global trade that Beijing claims virtually in its entirety, and where it has taken increasingly aggressive actions that have threatened smaller claimant states, including the Philippines. China and the Philippines, along with Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, and Taiwan, have been locked in an increasingly tense territorial dispute over the busy, resource-rich South China Sea. Where those Spratly Islands were, those were arguably claimed by all 5 of those places. They're all saying, this is ours. Well, they ended up building land and took dirt from the bottom of the sea and then started building their encampments. And actually, I think eventually they may actually say that is China's, especially if they get their way. I mean, if you think about it, if they end up having a whole city there, it's kind of hard to say that that's not, China, right? Hopefully that doesn't happen, but that's what they're going for. It says that's a trade route where more or less $3 trillion worth of trade passes. Our responsibility in collectively securing that is huge, Carlito Galvez, who heads the Philippine Defense Department, said. So not only are we placing a ton of military all over the world, we're now placing it right next to Taiwan and China and now increasing that number. There's always been a certain amount that are around this whole area with our different treaty allies, but now they are pumping that up. Dex, do you think that they're actually putting a lot more than what they say? Or would that be seen? Would China know that?
Oh, they'll certainly see it. I'm sure they've got satellites looking. But it's interesting because on one hand, you've got this whole question like, well, will the U.S. do anything about Taiwan? And coming out of the officials, they say, well, we support the one policy, et cetera. But then we have all these heads of state and whatnot meeting with them and doing all sorts of things. But actions like this really show that we are moving military assets and creating locations that are ideal for a conflict. If we didn't think there was a conflict coming, we wouldn't necessarily do this. We've always had a good relationship with the Philippines. We've always had bases there. We still have them there. We just did this deal with them to expand that and to expand it greatly. And this is the outcome of that. This is part of it. There was other things we reported on. This is probably the fourth time we reported on the Philippines as these different expansions have come from the new deal that they did. But all of these expansions seem to be clearly lined up against Xi. So the writing's on the wall, so to speak, that conflict is, I don't want to say it's inevitable, but the military and the people that support them through these deals certainly are making the motions and setting the plays and getting things in place specifically for a potential conflict. So the writing is sort of on the wall.
Yeah, and it would end up being strategically a huge area of battle if anything popped off. Kenny Crowder, thank you for being the first one out, along with Ryan B. Says, give a thumbs up and share. Thank you, Adam, Dex, and Mods. Well, thank you again, Ryan B. Thank you for being the first one out of the gates, along with Kenny Crowder, one of my first subscribers in the first 10 subscribers. I think you're number 8 or 5, right? Good evening, Adam, Dex, Mods, and Foogle fam. Be safe. Love your way. I think about that, Kenny, that you're still here and that you were in the first 10 or something. And that's just crazy to think that, like, the other 5 or 6 were my family members. That's crazy to me. You randomly found me because of something I put out, probably on Cascadia, I think. And I made that for my personal family members. I made like a PowerPoint presentation for my family on why they should, pay attention. Don't tread on me, 713, Texas love. Thank you. Hey, thank you from Texas. Don't tread on me, 713. Nice to see you. And you guys have such a cool state there. You have your own grid. You have huge highways. You guys are set up in the SHTF department, and you of course have your own gold depository and all that. And then we have Casey, 1776, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Diane Moses, thank you for the super sticker. And, of course, Bearclaw One Reaper says a proud shout-out for Jorge Ventura. Hashtag Cartel Grows. Bearclaw, thank you for your support. And then much love, Foogle fam. Remember to thumbs up, says Zen1AZ. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Zen1. And thank you for keeping and staying around for so long. Okay, Parker Frazier, love Adam, Dex, and Mods, best channel on YouTube. Well, I don't think we're the best, but we're definitely a channel. Yeah. Okay, Parker Frazier, thank you. And everybody else that has just popped in, did we end up on Rumble tonight, by the way? I know that Rumble, because of T-Man talking, was like down. So we could not.
Yes, we are there.
Okay, so it was not working before the show, and it was because I think it was overloaded. Everybody was heading over there for all of the different coverage of the T-Man stuff, and insane amount of people are paying attention to what is happening right now, and it's just insanity. That is a whole other thing, and again, we'll end up touching on that later, but on top of everything on a possible civil conflict, we have all of these different world events that most people are not even paying attention to. Your friends and family are most likely like, oh, look at this video of a cat falling off a piano, which are great. Don't get me wrong. I love me some piano falling off kitties, but there's a lot of really important stuff going on down right now. And then before we talk about U.S. South Korea start joint sea drills, so this is a big one that Kim Jong-un supposedly, or his clone, said that he does not like, so this could trigger something. Before we talk about that, I do want to remind you, make sure to go over and check out Energy. This is our recommended solar generator to get, and it's not just because it's one of this many and it rates as high. This is one of the best solar generators out there. It is the units that we choose. I don't have the Flex Tactical. This is the brand new one. It hasn't even come out yet, but this is essentially a tactical version of the Flex 1500 that was actually designed with help from the Air Force Research Laboratory. So they actually worked directly with the U.S. Army and Air Force on this unit. So this is an incredible unit. If you want something incredibly tactical, if that's the kind of person you are, then this is well worth the wait. You can see the people that are actually working with them. As you can see, it's one of the best out there. And if the if the military is going to trust it on the battlefield, or if they're going to work on this thing, then it's probably pretty good. As far as the marfooglenews.com/energy, the Flex, the 1500, this is what I have. And I also have 2 of the X2s. These are really great because these have a built-in battery. The Flex, its thing is that it is modular. So you can actually add up to 96 batteries like Legos. These stack. They do not have an external cord that you have to plug in unless you go over 5 batteries. But you can actually stack up to 5 in one stack and then handle and take that with you and bring it wherever you want. It gets power from either solar panels from your wall. You can actually quick charge it in about an hour and a half, I believe, if you have the UPS rapid charger. And then you can also charge it from your car. So the solar panels are the coolest way because that is free energy every single day. It's unlimited energy as long as the sun comes up. Even in overcast weather, you can actually get this power. This is silent, so there is no loud noise. Nobody's going to hear it from 3 blocks away. And in an SHTF situation, that's going to be incredibly important to be stealth. So this is what we recommend because we know if SHTF happens, if a disaster happens, these are built like tanks. They're reliable. And again, they're some of the best made on the market. There are a lot of other units out there and competitors. I would say a majority of them are made in China. And I personally think they're a bunch of crap. These are really, really, really amazing. They have the up on their part is that they're modular. That is what sets them apart from many. Right off the bat, you can plug in 4 solar panels. You can actually get a thin mod that goes in like a Lego, and it will actually increase that to 12 solar panels, basically tripling the charging speed. So if you haven't got into these yet, it's amazing when the power goes off to actually have power right off the bat, to have that and to be able to be comfortable in a disaster like that is absolutely been amazing. I've had many times my power goes out and we just basically hang out like nothing's happened. So go over to marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. You'll get a special discount on top of that. So make sure to go there, and you will be helping support our independent channel. Thank you, Foogle fam. You guys are what supports us. We don't have a multi-channel network. We don't have any backup besides you. So thank you. And then, so the U.S. and South Korea start joint sea drills as North Korea makes nuclear threat. Everybody laughs North Korea off, but eventually something is going to happen. It's the boy who cried wolf, or the big clone, or whatever the heck he is, keeps crying wolf. One of these days, I don't know. I'm starting to think that they are going to be used as a puppet by some of the other bigger countries to start things off. Dex, do you want to go over this and what they said here?
So specifically, they're going after this particular drill is anti-submarine exercises. So as you may recall, we covered here that NK had launched some ballistics and did some testing out of their submarines. Of course, they also claim that they have a underwater drone that is capable of launching the infamous radioactive tsunami that Russia has been touting. So, but specifically what they're looking for in this drill is how do they go and, create response capabilities, things like that, against the threats that are underwater. So they're going to be launching this. I think it's a 2-day long drill, but it started today. And of course, every time there is some sort of action from NK, then we run a drill. And every time we run a drill, there's another action from NK. So expect to see something tomorrow, the next day, this week at least, from NK about this. At minimum, it'll be words, but more than likely, it'll be yet another launch.
And eventually, there has to be something that happens. If not, it's just somebody's going to take them out. If they don't take somebody else out, or if they don't start some crazy fight with South Korea, which that is more likely than anything, is if they start attacking South Korea for real, then somebody else is going to take them out. If they were able to take out all of their nuclear facilities, or if they had solid information to take out all their stuff at once, I bet they would. Or would the three-letter agencies say, oh, we could, sort of take it out and then actually control it, make it the world's bad guy, and then secretly do black market stuff and illegal things there that we can't do in any other country? Who knows? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you over on DLive. Everybody that's popping in. Heartbroken Survivor says prayer request for Heartbroken Survivor. Thank you, Jammer. And I'll be praying for Heartbroken Survivor. As you guys know, Heartbroken Survivor has called in quite a few times now. She is blind and she's on her own. She is getting up there. I don't want to say her age, but she's up there. And she admits that. And she's just the hardest lady you've ever met. And she will say that. She will kick your butt. She is blind and still lives on her own. She's tough as nails. But if she's having problems, I'm praying for her. And again, she's the kind of person that would say, don't worry about me. So that's exactly why we do. So hope you're doing good, Heartbroken Survivor. And I am praying for you. And in Jesus' name, please heal you. And I hope that you get better really quick. Vault Music, thank you for gifting a badge. Company 328, thank you for the Ninja Genie. Again, thank you. That is really appreciated. And then Yobi Sally Rains, great stream, Adam. Much love. Well, thank you. Gadge07, thank you for following. Gambera. And let's see. Chance, thank you along with Jammer for modding over there. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. Make sure to go check out Chance and Jammer, but Chance has books on Amazon over on marfooglenews.com/friends. All right, and then let's see here. We have Russia warns NATO as Belarus sees nuclear upgrade on planes and missiles. Dex, so what did they do to these?
So I think this came out today from Sergei Shoigu. He has again issued a threat specifically because in response, because today was the official day, and we'll talk about that in a little bit too. But Finland joined NATO, so they are now officially in. That happened today. And of course, there's going to be the rhetoric that flows out of their position because they don't like NATO. Obviously, NATO was created to strengthen, I guess, a response and specifically against Russia for Europe and other countries that are members. So, but yeah, the statement he made was, it wasn't necessarily as specific as, some of the other crazy stuff that you get out of Lavrov and others, but definitely, saying that they're going to be carrying out a set of measures to increase, readiness, stuff like that. They're not real pleased with what's going on with Finland. Again, this is 800 extra miles of border against their country that is now NATO. So that's a sort of a big change in the landscape for them.
Yeah, it's going to be completely different for as far as them. They will have now, I guess, it would be the equivalent of almost a third of the United States, that distance, all along their border of more NATO. And I wonder what NATO is actually going to do, how fast that is going to change things, what the different responses from everybody is going to be. In Russia's St. Petersburg, locals say Finland making problems with NATO accession. It says that citizens of St. Petersburg, the Russian city closest to Finland, on Tuesday accused their neighbor of turning its back on them by joining the Western military alliance NATO, following their government's line that accession was a hostile act. Before Russia sent its armed forces into UKR early last year, people in Russia's second city had been fond of visiting the Finnish capital Helsinki, about 5 hours drive away. Says, I don't think anything will change this for us, said St. Petersburg resident Yevgeny, who, like others, declined to give his surname. It will only get worse for the Finns because we won't go there, and they will only incur losses from this. Essentially saying any tourism from going there is over. It says another resident, Nikolai, said Finland was making problems for itself. We used to consider it a brotherly country of a capitalist world, the closest to us in spirit, in relations, in mutually beneficial economic relations, he said. But now we'll consider it a state that is unfriendly to us. None of the 5 people Reuters spoke to sympathize with Finland's decision to give up its neutrality because of Russia's military campaign in UKR. So one thing I want to point out is they don't do like a survey on this. They spoke to 5 people, and then they write an article as if this is the general public, that everybody thinks this. I don't know how they possibly did this, but you can also kind of alter what people are going to say depending on what area you go and interview people in. Do you get what I mean, Dex? Like if they didn't do like a survey of 1,000 people in this place and said, what do you think about this now decision? They talked to 5 dudes or 5 people. It said men in the other one. 5 men, according to the other one, or 5 people in this one. That doesn't, like, how does mainstream media, they spend so much money on producing a story like this, and they base it on 5 people's comments, and then that's the general opinion they want to spread to 8 billion people. You get what I mean? 8 billion people are possibly, able to read this, and it's based off of what, 5 people? That's like, 4-player on Halo and one's waiting. That's not really the whole country's kind of opinion.
Yeah, it's not very statistically sound for sure, but it does give them the sound bites they're looking for in whoever's creating this particular piece. But it definitely doesn't necessarily reflect a decent statistical sample of what the people think there. Now, mind you, they may be right. I mean, there may be some truth in there, but as always with information that comes out of those other countries, we have to take it with a grain of salt and sort of look through the lines to sort of decipher, like, what's the real message they're trying to put across here.
Well, I don't know. And by the way, somebody said it smells like confirmation bias. I don't know if you're saying on my part, but I guess, everybody has confirmation bias in one way or another, and you can't deny that. But as far as this goes, my point is completely separate from that. It's the fact that this is, AP and routers, however you want to say it, tomato, both of those literally are the top of these 2 triangles that everybody ends up just kind of switching a word here and there, and then it goes out to the whole world. And they use the AP and this is like their 2 kind of top king reliable news sources. And what they're basing it off of was going up to 5 people and going, what do you think about this? Oh, it's going to hurt for them, right? Oh, and this is not going to help. And they said all 5. Now, the reason they say all 5 is so they say, like, oh, everybody we went to said this. But that's 5 people. We can easily do a survey in this room right now with 3,000 people in the chat. And even if 0.1% of you responded, it would be a more accurate survey than this. All my point is that the fact that this is a worldwide piece, there's pieces like this all the time. They'll talk to 3 people, and most of these stories, they're putting out for a reason. They're being told to put this out for a reason or a piece of the Ganda. That's all I'm saying. And most likely it will hurt Finland. Some folks won't go there because now Finland has become this place where they have joined NATO, which was supposed to be against the Soviet Union, now is against modern day Russia. So yeah, I could see how that would be, but it's just my side point. And this is like every piece that you see come out says we talked to 3 people familiar with the subject, and none of them can be named based on anonymity. 5 people or 6 people close to the source. This is what we consider the most trusted news in the world, but we never get an actual frickin' source. We get 3 people close to the project, or 3 people close to it, or 3 people familiar. You'll see this in a million different articles. I read them every day. 3 people familiar with the process. This is what news is. That's why we got to question everything and go, okay, is this Ganda? This is an opinion. This is 5 guys' opinions. This isn't a fact. What fact would be is if they said, now we've waited a year, Finland has lost $4 million because of what happened with Russia. Finland has lost $5 billion because they joined NATO. That would be news. That would be fact. This is opinion. That's my point. And you caused this. As Finland joins NATO, see the 1939 Soviet-Finnish War amid Russia's retaliatory threats. Dex, this is actually talking about, we actually referenced this yesterday or the day before, how they got in a fight and some land was swapped, basically forcibly taken. Do you want to go over what this is saying?
Basically, 1 million Soviet troops attacked the heavily outnumbered Finns on several fronts back in 1939. They ended up claiming victory and only seizing a couple of the barrier islands, or some of the islands that are now part of Russia. But that's exactly what we talked about last night. It's an interesting story. This kind of referenced that. But what goes with that, by the way, there was 127,000 lost on the Soviet side and only about 25,000 on the Finland side. But from that, they actually ended up having some treaties that they had signed, agreeing that they would, they weren't able to join organizations considered hostile to the Soviet Union. And they had this treaty from 1948, which was extended in 55 and in 70 and again in 83. And then they reached a new agreement with Russia in 92 when the Soviet Union fell, saying that they would settle any disputes peacefully. So a lot of people are sort of saying, hey, they were supposed to remain neutral because of the stuff, but now they joined NATO. But if you're interested in the history, that's sort of, we touched on it a little bit. We didn't have all the details last night, but this is sort of gives you a decent rundown of the historical part, as well as, during the Great Second conflict, they did allow Germany to pass through and against the Soviets. So there's a lot of interesting history that went on there between the Finns and back then the Soviets.
And now I'm sure that there will be more brought up on that subject since now this has happened. Finland and Sweden. I wonder what's going to happen with Sweden now. They can't get into NATO. I know that Finland unaccompanied its application for this because they were more important. And I believe that's probably to the people in NATO that wanted these people to join or told them why they should join. It was more important because of their border was closer and it was there, compared to Sweden, which was behind it. But I wonder what's going to happen with Sweden now. And then Tatarsky's assassination, most likely a Russian Fantastic Freddy, expert says. So they said that Russians, it says, I think we need to consider different versions because we still have insufficient information for Cinco Begins. It says, but I will add regarding the versions that I think it was done by a Russian Special Services, or RSS. This version, by the way, is actively discussed in Russian social media, in Russian Telegram channels, in Russian opposition media, and I think this is the most popular version. According to him, the aim was to blame UKR and to scare Russian elites who were becoming too relaxed, beginning to criticize Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. Another possible reason for the assassination, according to Fosenko, was to create a pretext to push Putin towards imposing martial law in Russia. Now, if this is just theory, whatever's going on here, Dex, do you remember the Telegram, what is it, not the SVR, the general SVR, talking about martial law and talking about the huge mobilization? I believe it was January 9th that was put out. Is that correct?
Yes.
January 9th said that on January 18th that a massive mobilization would start. that they would prepare and drill to have all Russian leaders basically extracted and taken out. And in case of a massive nuclear exchange, and at the same time, that was when Noah's Ark, the plan that they have, came out. And they said that there would be martial law in Russia at some point. So what I think is interesting here, Dex, is that this is what is now, the chatter is now talking about it, and everything else on that general SVR post has come true, but this hasn't. This guy getting taken out is very specifically pushing a certain narrative.
And the other part to this potential narrative is they're now alleging that Prigozhin, who was the head of the Wagner Group, remember he owned, as we reported last night, he owned that cafe, the cafe in St. Petersburg where this happened. They're actually saying he was supposed to be in the meeting. And if he'd have been there, obviously things would have been a little bit different, and it would have been not just a blogger, but it would have also been Prigozhin who would have been taken out. Now, we all know that he's not been sitting real pretty with the Kremlin, so to speak, because of all the nonsense that he has been stating publicly, as they refer to it, over Bakhmut and other things, as well as munitions and whatnot. But, take that and that theory that's floating out there and this other theory and put it together. And, right now, nobody knows. Like, nobody knows anything. All they know is the girl that we reported that was arrested, who was on camera, who delivered the bust to the blogger, who, had this and welcomed the person over and had a conversation and took the gift and said thank you. And then that's the actual device that was used. So very crazy story. Don't know if we'll ever get the truth out of this, but you can see all of the ways they're trying to spin this from all sides.
Not only are they're spinning it, but there's very specific things coming out of these claims. I just think it's interesting if they do end up doing anything like that. The centers of the readiness centers, that did end up being true too. There was other posts that talked about these massive centers being opened up to recruit and to mobilize. That also came true. Whereas other things that have been said by other places, a lot of it was just total ganda on both sides. There's so much ganda coming out. Syntho, what was that? Syntho? I forgot the last name there. Syntho says, I'm new here. Love your stuff. Hey, thank you so much. And Syntho, I hope everybody welcomes Syntho, Cintho. Syntho, welcome to the Foogle family, and I hope you like it here. And there's a lot of great people. Meanwhile, since we do have a few new people here, let's just do a roll call. Where are you guys from? Just a general state and country, like represent Washington or represent California or Warsaw, wherever you're at. Let us know, and you can meet all the other people that probably relate to you and local. Do a quick roll call in the chat, and we'll call out some of you guys. Oklahoma's here. We've got Southern Oregon, Wisconsin, JSF Bay Area, California. We've got Michigan. Welcome, Syntho, says Peggy D. Hey, thank you. Georgia. Lots of Georgia, Nebraska. Lots of California, too, which is awesome. Pennsylvania, Kansas. What is happening? We're in Bremerton, Washington. Stormblade 69 Wags. I'm sure you heard about they moved out those nuclear ships out of dry dock when that balloon went over. That was weird. If you're familiar with that base, they said it was because of seismic concerns. That whole thing, even if it wasn't for the balloon, if it's for seismic concerns, you should know Cascadia subduction zone. Like, why would they temporarily move all of the nuclear ships for seismic concerns? I think that's coming, and we're going to talk about that here soon. There's a lot of weird seismic activity. Phoenix, Arizona, what's going on? Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Let's see here. Iowa, VA. Hey, what's going on, Bible Talk? Jennifer Prescott, Pacific Northwest, checking in. What is happening? Lots of Pacific Northwest. Let's see. Alaska. Hey, if you haven't checked out Alaska Prepper, make sure to do so. A Hobbit. I'm sure you're already subscribed. Yosemite. What is happening? The dry docks need repairs. Andrea Tyler. Oh, you mean for the seismic concerns? Is that what you're saying? Because dry docks is not where the boats are above, on the actual, holders, not in the water. Robert Kennedy. Hey, if you've got something that makes sense for that would be lovely. Carol, thank you. Cinto Barney. Hi, Jamin. Hey, Jeffrey Torres, Key West, Florida. Finally, some East Coast folks. That's B. Blake. Love that people from everywhere watch. There's actually a lot of people from Australia, New Zealand. There's a lot of folks in Poland and in Europe. But it's weird how YouTube, only certain people are present. There's not some countries like we don't see people from. But they have YouTube everywhere, right? Thank you already for going and checking this out. It is something that will actually be a very beneficial thing for you. If you have the chance, go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. They not only have all sorts of other things there, their main thing, though, is their supplies of freeze-dried food. If you've never heard anything about freeze-dried food, they essentially extract the water out of the food. They seal it in Mylar bags, and it's able to last up to 25 plus years. So over 2 decades, you'll have the food, and you'll be able to add and cook it in water, and it restores its original nature. So it's really insane to say have a freeze-dried meal, add water, and then in 20 years from now, 2 decades. You may have had a child and now they're old enough to go to the bar, open up a meal you bought when they were born and eat it, and it tastes like it did the day that it was packed. That's insane to me. It's really quite a crazy thing. But also, with inflation, the price of freeze-dried foods has tripled in the last 3 years. If you think about it this way, if you get something like the 3-month, which is now $200 off, in 3 years from now, if this triples again, you'll still have 22 years left on the shelf, and you won't have to pay 3 times the price. A lot of folks look at these as an investment because later down the road, if you end up trying to buy the same amount, it's actually way, way higher. And it just keeps going up because the demand since CV in 2019, everything has gone up and it continues to go up. This will be more valuable than any fiat currency if SHTF happens. So these are really, really great to have. Also, it is one of the most affordable ways to get a lot of bulk food. There's competitors that are really great. There's a lot of great competitors in this space, but some of them, one of them is up closer to $2,000 for a 3-month supply. This with the $200 off coupon is under $600. It's $597. That's 3 months. 1 month for 3 people. A month and a half for 45 days for 2 people, or 3 months for 1 person. So I'd highly recommend using that on multiple if you can. They also have 72-hour packs. They have 1 week. They have 2 weeks. They have all sorts of kits, and they have survival gear. So make sure to go check it out. It helps us. It gives you a giant discount. That's the kind of the negotiation. We bring people their way. We end up getting a commission off of what you purchase. And then that helps us financially. You're getting something out of it that you can keep for a long time. So you're not just giving us something. You are actually doing something for yourself and helping us in turn. So I think it's a win-win for everybody. It's better than super chats, I believe. If you are getting something, you're getting something for your money other than a shout out. So let's see here. Dex, go ahead.
I just found an update on the Puget Sound. It's in Screener if you want to pull it up. It's this event that happened there with the dry docks. It's so interesting because it all seemed like it lined up perfectly with the timing of the balloon and the fact that we know that they started to try to hide stuff because they didn't want anybody to see anything. Well, now that event is over, and a few days ago they came out and said, yeah. They gave us some sort of insight to what has happened. Now, apparently they're saying, yeah, we've reopened that. So does that add more curiosity to the situation?
Yeah, the reason I'm not buying it, why did they do it? They said temporarily because of seismic concerns, right? They said that they retrofitted it. But as this story comes out, so somebody will correct us. So go, no, it's because they fixed the dogs. I don't think they could fix it. When you're talking about this kind of size dry docks, when you look at these things, maybe they could fix it in that amount of time. But usually any of the retrofits that are going on in Seattle specifically, especially with the bridge and thing, these things take months and months and months, unless it is a super tiny thing. I do not believe in the time of a month and a half, 2 months that they could get this done. They take 20 years to do a section of a highway. I don't believe it, but I mean, look at, if you're from here and you know the trip from Seattle to Tacoma, that was just stupid. It took my entire life to get that done. That's what it seemed like. The tunnel, man, that just took years and years and years. It seemed like it was just forever. I don't know. I don't know about this, but I would love if you have information on this other, if this is what they're saying publicly. What I will tell you though, I don't know if you know this, but people kept asking questions about this. And I don't know if it was because of, creators like myself pointing it out, back, all of my peers also asking, like, why did you guys move this? But people did not stop. People were making videos on Rumble, on all sorts of different platforms, calling this out and saying, what are the seismic concerns? Talking about how the balloon flew over this area, and now they conveniently come out with this. Very well could be. I just don't see them fixing that big of a problem that they move all of the ships in 2 months. A retrofit of that size doesn't make sense. But if you know more than I do, if you're an expert and you can explain why, then let me know. And then official, Poland delivers first MiG-29 jets to UKR. So it is official. Poland has already transferred the first batch of MiG-29 fighter jets. Do you remember when it was just like, it wasn't even heard of that they were going to get jets, period? We said it along with our whole community. Everybody knew this was going to happen. It was a big deal to do tanks. And then right after they said tanks, everybody was like, oh, they're going to get jets. And now they're transferring and they already have the first batch of jets. The reason why nobody wanted them to have jets is they can do offensive attacks. And everybody wanted to support this thinking, oh yeah, they'll only defend themselves. Come on. Most reasonable people understood that they were going to be also attacking Russia. Especially if you know how the puppetry has worked since 2014. This is a proxy. It says, according to my information, this process has already been completed, i.e. the transfer of this first part. Of course, there will be talks about possible further support. It says, Sidax didn't specify how many jets have been delivered. Polish President Andrzej Duda said on March 16th that Warsaw would hand over the first 4 MiG-29 jets to UKR within the coming days. One thing I don't get is when you see the volunteer numbers of how many people are actually in the UKR military, Russia had them beat before they had 1.5 million. They had them beat by 4 times. What happens when they run out of people? You can give them as much gear as you want. What happens when they run out of people? And if they say at all close to what the numbers are of people perishing in the field, which they're saying basically 5 times as many Russians are perishing as UKR soldiers. I don't believe that. They're working with hand-me-downs, and I guess Russia has been using their hand-me-downs, but they have long-range artillery. They have all sorts of stuff that UKR has not had this entire time. Before they've had the air defense system, before they had all of these things, they must have been hitting them specifically with tons of stuff that they could just take them out. What happens when they run out of people? And I wonder who's flying these MiG-29s. How are these pilots getting trained? And then Dex, do you want to talk about Russia deploys up to 20 guided bombs each day?
So this is coming out of UKR. So let's look at the source. But specifically, what they're trying to say is that about 20 of these are coming from their aircraft, from Vlad's aircraft, to the front lines and across UKR every day. And these are guided, so they're a little bit more technical. but they're launching them from Su-35s, Su-34s, and they're outside the range of their defense systems. So again, creating a problem, creating a narrative, and saying, "Hey, we need a solution for this. So who's going to donate? Who's going to give us what we need to be able to defend against this?" And I think this is kind of like it's like a broken record. It's like every day we hear, "Oh well, we can't do this because of that." So then next week a new package comes out and we're sending over this, or some other country sending that, or maybe the new MiGs will help with this. It's very it's almost like it's in some ways it's kind of comical, because you can sit back and expect to see something. You're going to see a similar story to this next week. There will be another problem that they need a solution to, and they're broadcasting it out for the world to solve for them.
Not only solve it, but pay for, right? And then Putin lives in an information vacuum and never uses a cell phone or the internet, a Russian intelligence officer who defected says. So what is the point of this story, right? They're saying that he lives in a bubble, that he does, everybody's telling him that basically they're calling him stupid, that he's ignorant of what's going on. It says that President Vladimir Putin lives in an information vacuum and avoids using a cell phone or the internet to receive information. I would think that would make more sense because he's not trying to be tracked or traced, but according to a senior Russian intelligence officer who defected last year, Putin instead chooses to gather information from his inner circle and state TV news channels, which I believe they say that he has to approve half of the stuff that comes out on those channels. So it's more like that's kind of funny. Gleb Karakulov, former engineer and captain in the Presidential Communications Directorate of the Federal Guard Service, told the Dossier Center for Investigative Journalism. He said that his own role involved encrypting Putin's communications and regularly accompanying him on international trips, first traveling with Putin on a business trip in October 2009, per the Dossier Center. Kurov said that he has been in over 180 trips since he started working for the Federal Guard Service. But on one trip in October 2022 to Kazakhstan, Karakulov fled to Turkey with his family, becoming the highest-ranking intelligence officer to defect to the West in Russia's recent history, according to the Dossier Center. In a wide-ranging interview with the investigative outlet, which is funded by the exiled Russian businessman Mikhail Gorhodkovsky, Karakulov offered a unique insight into how Putin gets his information. In all my years of service, I haven't seen him once with a mobile phone. He says he doesn't use the internet or a mobile phone. Karakulov added, he only receives information from his closest circle, which means that he lives in an information vacuum. That's kind of funny, because I talked about this the other day. Tucker Carlson actually did a full-on monologue on how he does not watch, he doesn't use a phone, he doesn't use the internet for his information. He only gets texts from his inner circle. He has a circle of people all over the world that tell him what happened. This is from him saying this, right? So this is kind of what they're saying that he does, that he just basically gets his information from people he trusts. A lot of people, just using on kind of the comments from when Tucker says it, a lot of people say that that's actually a good way to do it, because you're not getting all of the misinfo everywhere. But who's to not say that all of his sources aren't then on the internet getting all of the misinformation and then passing it forward? Dex, what do you think of this? What they're basically saying that he does. What does that say, though, too? That also says that he's how bad is the internet where he's not even using it?
Yeah, exactly. But he also says that he requires to have access to Russian television wherever he travels, even out of the country. I don't know if maybe that's for him to monitor what's being said, or if he, as this person claims, he gets his information from there. They're state run, so it's not like he's not approving it or in some ways has control over it. But I guess maybe he wants to either monitor it or or maybe that is how they give him information. I think that's a little suspect, but it is odd for him not to be connected. I can see it from a security standpoint, but it can also be done securely too, and it's also you know, it definitely means that the only information he has is only coming from the people that work for him. So then it's only as good as those people are, which he's been known to throw a lot of them out. And some of them have mysterious things happen to him as well. So.
Okay, but he's the one who approves what they say on these channels, and his personal team. They're basically saying he's an idiot that just watches TV to figure out what's happening, right? And if you look and if you think about what Russian state TV is, they're like, well, we should nuke them. I'm like, oh, well, this is kind of scary then. If he is basing his decisions only on what he finds out from the tube, which the tube is literally state funded and is run and approved by him, that doesn't make sense. Where then would the information that they get? I don't know. It doesn't make sense. It says that he is pathologically afraid for his life. I think a lot of leaders probably are in secret. Probably a lot of them don't let it up. Look at every leader in the world, whether it be our president or anybody else. It's like they have Secret Service for a reason. They have all these things. You are at constant threat. I mean, shoot, I know what it's like having just a few people know how, who you are. I can't imagine the entire world, especially with all of the stuff that's said about any leader in the world. God, that would be so scary. But what we do see is they underestimate. They have the people underestimate all of our enemies, and that's really dumb. Putin's not a stupid dude, and that's not giving him a compliment. It's people should be aware that Xi is not stupid. Vlad is not stupid. He is he's a chess master. The guy is he's an incredibly smart guy, which is a scary combination for somebody who controls nukes. And then thank you, Schaefer Girl. I appreciate your support. Thank you, K. Parker Fraser, Zenwen AZ. Thank you, Syntho Barney. Thanks for the support. You don't have to do that. Make sure to just like and thumbs up the show. Share it with somebody you know. But thank you, Syntho. I appreciate your support. Uncommon News says, you see the fighting in Al-Aqsa Mosque and call to arms. Yes, we did. And I believe if it's not already on our web only, then it is. So we'll, again, we might be covering that tomorrow when we know more. It says, B-Roll Beast, you need Cash App. Dude, drop a link tree so we can fully support you without them taking my 2 cents. God bless. B-Roll Beast, that's not necessary, and you guys don't even have to do that in the first place. But thank you. I appreciate that. And then S. Nort says, I still love you guys. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. And thank you for stopping by. It's nice to see you after. It's been a while. And Diane Moses, thank you guys. Thank you so much for your support over on YouTube. Thank you. And then Putin will soon face his Julius Caesar moment in the Kremlin. It says, as the Russian military leadership continues to flounder in its field, it is now crystal clear that it is invading UKR. They were totally unaware of the strategic intentions of the Kremlin. A massive deception by their political leader was pulled over the eyes of the young Russian soldiers who believed that they were entering the country as liberators. No wonder the UK Ministry of Defense now reports issues with heavy drinking among them. Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin has become a victim of his own hubris. He firmly believed his security services had infiltrated and undermined the Kiev government, that a majority of the UKR population were opposed to President Zelensky. Dex, it's hard to read this, and it's not because, we know that even just a few years ago, CNN would have been covering the opposite side of the story and basically pushing the other side of the Ganda. It's so crazy how strong the Ganda is on both sides of this conflict.
It certainly is. And to sum it up, what they're basically saying is that their opinion in this piece, or in this Ganda piece, if you want to call it that, is they think that the military is the one that will oust him. And they think that because of the fact that they've had so many challenges, and they were, in a sense, as they're claiming, were fed a line of one thing, but in reality it was something totally different, that it's very likely that someone like, and they're suggesting that the chief of the general staff, General Valery Gerasirimov, if he can garner, and I'm quoting the article, if he can garner enough support and find the moral courage to act, that the conflict could be over well before its second anniversary, basically insinuating that if the general or generals or the military would just act against Vlad and basically take him out, in other words, a Caesar moment, then it would be done. We've heard all of these different scenarios, whether it's oligarchs or people in the Kremlin that are close to him politically, or now in this scenario, military generals, that he's basically in the crosshairs of everyone right now. So they're basically trying to paint this picture that he's going to, if he doesn't win, he's going to be taken out. Now, everybody sort of agrees if he doesn't win, it's, his political aspirations are pretty much toast. And that would make sense. Just generally speaking, if you lose something big like that, you're not going to have a lot of weight to carry forward, politically speaking. But they're being a lot more specific here and suggesting that, he is going to be eventually taken out by someone. And in this case, they're suggesting the military.
It's just that because it's just like when, and I see the same from their side, when they put out something that's just so over the top, and it's something that, they're saying that they're just so horribly rampant. Everybody's so drunk. They're just so against this. That's not the truth. When you look, they're actually, just like our guys are like, yeah, F Russia, they're like F the USA. They're saying that they're just completely falling apart at the seams and that they hate what he's doing. That's not the truth. And the thing is, all of their media outlets are now banned, so you can't see what they're actually saying over there. You just got to take their word for it. Oh, it's going to fail. The same people that believe these things are the same people that believed all this stuff about the CV. It's just that you just tell a lie. And then if you say that, then they go, oh, well, you're in support of this. No. How about just the truth? How about not the BS? Like, this is an opinion. Okay, so if they are drinking, that makes them basically every military in the world. When you're in a battlefield, yeah, I bet there's a lot of drinking. And I bet there's in every world war, there was massive drug use. Anything they could get their hands on, if they took a city, they would take booze and hit it right there. The guys are about to perish. They're about to run into literal bullets. Do you think they cared about taking a shot before they did it? Heck, they used it for pain management too. I'm just saying, it's just like, come on. This is like, it's just, you can spot it. Once you can spot it, it's hard not to spot it. And then Russia wants to ditch the Wagner Group and replace it with another private army that's easier to control, UK intel says. That could be. But I think that the whole circus with the Wagner Group is almost orchestrated to be a circus, right? I don't know if I think that they almost do it themselves. Russia might replace the Wagner Group with another private military company that it can exert more control over. British Ministry of Defense tweeted on Tuesday. It says, in its daily intelligence update, the MOD said that the Kremlin is seeking to, quote, sponsor and develop alternative private military companies, or PMCs, to eventually replace the Wagner Group in its significant combat role in UKR. Military leadership likely wants a replacement PMC that it has more control over, the MOD said. It added that private companies appeal to Russia because they're less constrained by poor pay and inefficiency that afflict Russia's formal military. It says, but finding somebody to replace Wagner might prove difficult for Russia as the mercenary group is unique in its size and combat power, the update added. It comes as a very public feud between Russia military leaders and the Wagner Group founder Yevgeny Prigozhin appears to have spiraled out of control. It says Wagner Group mercenaries have been heavily involved in Russia's attempt to capture the embattled UKR city of Bakhmut, located in the Donbas region, deploying tens of thousands of fighters there. Prigozhin has repeatedly accused the Russian army of taking credit for victories won by his fighter in Bakhmut. You know what's so crazy is to have a private military of 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. Just think of that, a private military. These guys are not enlisted in anything. They're just dudes with weapons. And they're funded. They're given money to go take people's lives, and they don't face any crimes. Or at least they won't face it in their own country, right? But it's kind of crazy to think. Dex, isn't it weird to think about that, like a football stadium of dudes that's just a private military? It's crazy that these that these even exist. It's just there's
a lot of money in it for sure, and paying them to do things that you can't do, or do things you don't want to do, or if you don't want your numbers to look bad, you can let a private company take care of it. So if your numbers do look, if they get a lot of losses, it's not your numbers, it's the private group's numbers. So, but the other thing, we talked about the competition here, which was the Russian defense minister. I think that was his title. Sergei Shoigu, who has his own company. Remember, he has another group. And they said that they were sort of competing, and they were trying to. He was trying to get that more involved in UKR. So I wonder if that has any play here. That group allegedly has more experienced soldiers. They don't recruit from the prisons and take young kids that don't have any experience, which is much different. The Wagner Group takes them all. But they say that this group, I think it's called the Patriot Group, and that's Sergei Shoigu's company, is definitely, and they pay him a lot more. They pay him like $6,300 to $15,000 a month, monthly salary. So they actually get paid fairly well, and that's U.S. dollars equivalent.
That's insane. But I guess you're getting paid a big paycheck to possibly die every day, right? These private military, the military, and how, by the way, has anybody here done private military contracted work? I know that you always see that it pays extremely well. Everybody's probably seen a movie or two with these groups, and there's tons of movies about these guys that get paid tons and tons of money to go over there after they're done serving. They do the private sector, right? They might do security or this or that. As a ex-soldier, they've experienced and they've got these skills, right? What is a realistic amount that you've been paid, right? From real life experience, if you've done that before, not like a Google what do you call it, estimate. What's a real amount that these guys actually get in the U.S.? Dex, go ahead.
I actually had a friend who was doing that in the Afghanistan when we were there, and he went back as private, and he was securing. His job was running security for I think an airfield, one of the airfields there. He made $300,000 a year on that contract.
Gosh, what does that break down? What does that break down to per month? Is it like that's incredible? 300,000, 30 divided
like
by
25 grand a month.
That made me hit the table so hard it did my intro. Yeah,
I'm assuming he was like super experienced too. I mean, I knew him, but I never really got into his details. But yeah, that's pretty well paid.
That's $100,000 every 4 months. That's just insane. And $300,000 a year. That's actually how much the what is his name? The guy who well, I shouldn't say which one, but he is the CEO of a zoo. Let's just say that. And I was blown away. And it was somebody who became kind of a friend, but he ran a bunch of zoos. and not a bunch at the same time, but he's been at like 5 zoos, and I was just blown away by how much the person who runs a zoo makes. It's like, that's just incredible. It was like 24 grand a month or something. Yeah, it was over 300,000. That's nuts. All right, and then let's see here. Before we move on, make sure to go over, and if you do want to protect yourself against EMP, there is a way to do it. You can put an EMP shield on your car, get the same protection that agencies like DHS and DOD are doing, and go over and get yourself an EMP shield on your cars, trucks, boats, motorcycles, and of course your generators, your solar generators. You can even get one for your Energy Flex 1500. And your house. The house version is the only one you need an electrician to do, but once you do put that on your house, everything plugged in within 250 linear feet will be protected against not only all 3 phases of an EMP, E1, E2, and E3, but it will also protect you against CMEs. If a Carrington level event happens, if you are protected, then you'll either be able to get where you need to go to bug out or to get home to bug in. So it's really important. The car versions are the most popular. Those can be put in about 10 minutes by yourself. You don't need to be an expert or a mechanic. It literally is one of the easiest things to put into your car. It grounds the signal. In the car case, it will ground it to the frame of the car in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your car and to keep you running. So this is, again, the same company that's outfitting agencies like DHS and DOD. You can get the same kind of protection. If they're going to protect themselves, we should be doing the same. They're definitely not going to do it for us. So again, that is one of the most likely scenarios out of all the crazy things. marfooglenews.com/EMP. You'll get $50 off per device, and you'll be helping our channel at the same time. And then Hunt pleads not guilty to 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. So we don't normally touch on this too much, but man, so and after looking much into what it is, and the opinion of many is not only are these just stupid, these are absurdly crazy and absolutely nonsense charges. Basically, even just in how they don't make sense. Like the fact that he would be involved in something that essentially an accountant would be doing. He would not be involved whatsoever. And they're making that claim that he would be personally doing things with these things that an accountant was doing. There's all sorts of things that are popping up. I assume, like many others, that this is absolutely going to be a whole nothing burger. If you don't know, everybody was debating whether he's going to get a mugshot. He did get fingerprinted. He did get whatever the other part is, but he didn't get a mugshot. But he said not guilty. They say, and now they're saying they might even push this off into like January 2024. This is just yet another thing. I don't get how even the people that hate his guts, that just think he's the worst example for our kids ever, that think he's just gross and don't care how, what about anything else, that they just think he's a gross, perverted dude. That's what I hear most people go, oh, it's not that he did a bad job, that it's, he's just not a good role model for kids. And I'm thinking, look at the people they consider a good role model for kids. They're under the desk with certain people, or they're driving into mailboxes drunk, or they're literally saying, I don't want my kids to be in a jungle type of stuff. Like, these are the people that, because they have a nice haircut and they, are able to, those are the role models, right? But as far as like this goes, this is just incredible. I'm surprised even those people that hate his guts can't see that this is like non-stop attack since 2016. It's been 7 years of this. And I know people that would not vote for him again only because they're done dealing with the BS. They're done dealing with the crap. They're tired of the fight. And they basically have said like, hey, no matter what, he's going to get attacked forever, and they're done with it. What do you think, Dex? This is not guilty to all of these, right?
This is, it's going to be a media circus. That's on one hand, it's, set the political parts aside, because there's all sorts of angles on that. But, I think CNN and all these major news networks, they're all like super excited that they've got all this coverage that they can do now, like nonstop. It's almost like, the OJ trial. It'll be the trial of the century or something like that. So they can't wait. They're going to eat it up.
Well, and more recently the Amber Heard type thing, right? That was everybody's been waiting for the next thing. But unfortunately, if people cover this trial like that, they're going to be censored off the internet. That's what's so funny. They can't cover this like they covered Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, because it's either going to be censored or the algorithm will accidentally boot them off, even if they're like a TikTok creator or something. This is just nuts. They're just nonstop attacks. And, whether you hate them or like them, people should see that this is clearly like they have done everything they can. They're like, we just can't have this guy in. It's craziness. All right. And then let's see here. By the way, this has been added to the website, the Dry Dock story, updating the official narrative on that. If you want to go over there, marfooglenews.com. And then thank you over on YouTube. Thank you, K. Parker Frazier. I appreciate your support once again. Be Real Beast, Syntho Barney, and of course, Uncommon News, 777, S. Nort, Company 328. Thank you. Cognitable, Beer Juice, Vault Music, Skyhouse, and Robert 46. Thank you. Dex, there's some crazy stories here. Can we go over some of these crazy after-hour stories here?
I put in a screener if you want to grab.
Oh, where is it?
It's in screener.
Okay.
It's what was going on it's more of an updated article on that attack, that recent attack. And that's kind of crazy because that's going to escalate really quick, I can imagine.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Okay, yeah. So, and then this will be there as well. Israeli police attack worshippers in Jerusalem, Al-Aqsa. Gaza launches rockets at Israel. Okay, if you don't know what's going on with the whole thing with Israel says that they are going to attack Iran, whether anybody joins in or not. Now, of course, you have these police attacking worshipers in Jerusalem, Al-Aqsa, and, of course, Gaza launches rockets. It said that the incident sparked protests across the occupied West Bank, and the Israeli military said 9 rockets were fired from Gaza towards Israel after sirens blared in southern towns. Violence in the occupied West Bank and Jerusalem has surged over the past year, and there is a concern that tensions would escalate this month as the Muslim holy month of Ramadan coincides with Judaism's Passover and Christian Easter. Palestinian Red Crescent said that 7 Palestinians sustained wounds from rubber-tipped bullets and beatings in clashes with Israel police at the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. It added that Israel forces were preventing its medics from reaching the mosque. It says, I was sitting on a chair reciting Quran. An elderly woman told runners outside the mosque, struggling to catch her breath. They hurled stun grenades. One of them hit my chest, she said as she began to cry. When the police entered, stones were thrown at them and fireworks were fired from inside the mosque by a large group of agitators. It said, adding that the police officer was wounded in the leg. It says, we warn the occupation against crossing red lines at holy sites, which will lead to a big explosion. We're talking about, this is a holy conflict that's been going on forever. And when you do it at the holy sites, when these things go down, this can cause real crazy stuff. I am praying for this to, I'm praying for all of this to calm down, because this is really getting to the point where this could end up triggering everything, and people aren't even paying attention much to the Middle East. We make sure to always cover all of the tit for tat things that are going on, and there's always something. There's always one thing back and forth, like the pallbearers of this place, screwing over this one, and the security here screwing over these guys. It's always a back and forth with this. But it is worth following, because this could be the flashpoint. This is biblical. Literally. Dex, let's go over the web only. There's lots of crazy stuff here.
to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up the description on YouTube or Rumble and click on the show notes link. It'll take you right here to this webpage and scroll down past all the news we just covered, including the other articles we've added as the show was progressing. You'll find this overflow section. This is the rest of the story. So that is everything else. So a ton of coverage in what was going on in New York today. So if you're looking for more of that, if you're not already tired of hearing about it, because it's pretty much everywhere, we do have some of that coverage there. So that's there. We have some financial updates, some big words coming from Jamie Dimon, some JP Morgan making some statements, a little bit of updates in AI. They're talking about instant videos where you much like you can do in Dolly, where you can type, I want to see a teddy bear on a skateboard, flying over the moon, and it'll produce a picture. There's a company that's actually getting to the point where you can make a statement like that and it'll produce a video. So this AI stuff is just exponentially growing every day, it seems like. Lots of other things going on, like how mobile phones have changed brains. Some updates with one of the religious groups out there, and a big judgment about how the folks that have claims against them have to resolve them within that religion and not in the courts, which is rather interesting. Some potential sightings of radio signals that they say may be coming from a planet that's the size of Earth, but they really don't know much more about it than that. Of course, we've got all of the other updates that are going on in UKR. So a lot of that is, some of it's Ganda, some of it's just this happened in this location, that happened in that location, these additional strikes, all the other information that goes along with what's happening there. So if you want to see that, all of that, including some statements from Zelensky, as well as even some statements coming out of NK around an old 2019 case in Spain with the raiders of the Spain embassy. So all of that and much more, it's right there. We put it together for you every show. It's the rest of the story. So if you're looking for more and you just couldn't get enough, go there. It's real simple. Go to marfooglenews.com and get the rest of the story. We put it together for you every night. If you're on YouTube and Rumble, just open up the description and click on the show notes link. It'll take you right here.
And thank you to the mods. Make sure to go thank Bones, Chance Bowden, CG Blaze, Jammer One, Lisa R. Hall, Ripcurl Readiness, RGL Harris, Ilea, Trinity Redder, Blue Bill, blah, 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 Kermit Frog here, and Wages World by going and subscribing to their channels. Special thank you to Ilea. Thank you for being absolutely amazing. Thank you for being here every night, Ilea. Appreciate you. Again, these people really do spend time. They care about the community, so make sure to care about them back. And then thank all of the friends of creators. Make sure to go check out all of these great channels down here under the friends section. All right, Dex, thank you for your service tonight. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. With the magnet, oh, come in, potato, really on a hunt, give the to thank all the top supporters tonight. Thank you, S. Nord. I appreciate you. He says, still love you guys. I believe you are the top supporter tonight. Thank you so much. Last night was Lola Cafe. Thank you. Appreciate you. Let's see here. Don't tread on me. Thank you, Kenny Crowder. Leave your number 2. S. Nord. S. I say S-O-S-N-O-R-T. All right, let's make a fresh one. Got to make one for Syntho too. New folks here. If you're new to the channel or if you're in the first couple months, say hello in the chat.